Okay, so I'm very, very proud to introduce Ambassador Eynat Shlein, who is the head of Mashav, Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation, and a deputy director in the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Born and raised in Israel, she joined the Foreign Service as a career diplomat in 1992, specializes in the Middle East region, Israeli-Arab relations and American affairs, promoting dialogue and understanding in the region. Since November 2020, she's head of Mashav, Israel's Agency for International Development Cooperation, leading Israel's global campaign, pursuing sustainable development in developing countries, focusing on climate change challenges, promoting gender equality, education, health, and food safety via capacity building and projects. Before that, she held many positions in the Foreign Service, including Deputy Director General for African Affairs and Ambassador of Israel to the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. She holds, I thought it's very important to mention, she holds a Bachelor in Middle East History, which she graduated magna cum laude here in Tel-Aviv University. Please welcome Eynat. Ambassador.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I was just going to say, and you gave me the right passage, that I apologize for being late here. I must say the building entrances have changed significantly since I graduated 32 years ago. I did go to Gilman. Maybe it was that, my wish to go up to the floor where I spent 6 happy years of my life. But then I finally came over here. So I apologize for that. And I'm happy, though, because that gave me the option, not just to see the Middle East and Africa headquarters on the 4th floor, but also it gave me an opportunity to listen to Tzafrir's presentation, which actually gonna alter everything I plan to say. But that is great, this is what we do. We think on our feet.
That's how I measure impact.
You see? So you already won, check, have coffee, there's cake outside. So my point being that we have to improvise here, but we Israeli diplomats do this all the time. We have to and we want to do great things. We have great visions, this amount of budget, but we're wizards in making soup out of stones, as the fairy tale goes, and we can make it happen, and we do. Okay, we could also speak here for 5 hours about the emptier half or bigger parts of the glass, but let's focus on what we have, and I think it's quite significant. So if I just look at a few of my regular slides, when we look at Israel in Africa, Mashav, till today, not to mention already from '58 when it was founded by Golda Meir, then the foreign minister. And the myth is she was on a tour in West Africa. We will never decide, and we will never say this in public, whether she was in Côte d'Ivoire or in Ghana or in Senegal. It doesn't matter. All of these countries are important to us. But she was there. She thought of Mashav as an effective and tool for the foreign ministry. This is how we define it today, but she thought Mashav would be a great idea both for Tikkun Olam, for making this a better place, and in order to find a useful platform to create bilateral relationship and support them. As Israel was 10 years old, it was rather isolated. There were many emerging democracies in Africa, and that was a very natural relationship in which Israel invested significantly. So, and today, of course, we still have the same ratio. Tikkun Olam now is translated to the support or commitment to the Sustainable Development Agenda of the UN 2030, all the SDGs, and the wish to create alliances and networks is this goal of Mashav. Now, when we look at our forefathers, and we think of the way they thought of this, they had great ideas, and we always try and implement them. And I should have told you when we still had Golda's picture on the screen that Mashav and Israel all together was, as you know, highly invested in Africa, and we still enjoy the after effects of the 60s. Most of us were definitely not active in the 60s if we existed at all. However, there is still a good reputation, which Tzafrir alluded to, for Israel in Africa. as you know, till today, there are parliaments and bridges and youth villages and the remainders of youth movements that were established by Israel in the 60s. Many of these establishments still exist. The interesting thing here, which I think is a very telling anecdote, that last year I realized that there were times where Mashav had over 300 specialists or experts posted in Africa, not coming in to teach 2 weeks or something. They were posted for years. And to those who think, yeah, right, they were training armies, there were some of the defense industry, but there were many, many agronomists, there were many water specialists, there were agricultural instructors, there were educators, there were many things, and the most, should I say, unique one, not to say obscure, is the fact that I've learned that we actually had an on-site conductor that created the military army band of Liberia. For 3 years, he was posted. So that tells you, it's an anecdote. I'm not trying to mock that. I'm trying to say that we were so fully incorporated in the continent and so invested, which was very unique. So the fact that the relationships have altered, after 67 and 73, and then started coming back in the 80s. I'm sure you're all familiar with the figures. However, it's important to say that investment and budgets, especially governmental budgets, create reality. And the reality of the 60s was created not just out of devotion and motivation and values. They were all there, by all means. They were there, and they were the driving force behind the relationship and the development of the relationship. But if there would not have been a significant budget allocation, none of this would have happened. I mean, we can go fast forward to 2024 or 2020. I mean, pick the year, and you can see that the motivation is still there, definitely, and the values and the wish and the devotion. However, the budgets are long gone. And if Tzafir mentioned before embassies, when I was the Deputy Director General for African Affairs, I used an interesting figure. In 2016, Israel had 10 resident embassies in Africa, and Turkey had either 10 or 11. 3 years later, okay, not to mention now, we had 11 embassies, because we opened the embassy in Rwanda, and the Turks had 43, okay? I think the figures speak for themselves. We can always say, people forget who we are and what do we do, but you know what? Embassies are not just buildings. Embassies are filled with people who want to promote relationship, who are devoted, who understand Africa in this case, who work for Africa and for Israel in Africa. And if they're absent, then c'est la vie, and if the whoever senior person in the foreign ministry, be the director general or the minister or just the professional diplomats, is pleading and trying on a yearly basis to fight the very, very strong, and I'm being very polite, pressures coming out of other ministries in this government to close down embassies around the world, and they're trying to close embassies in many continents, including Africa. Excuse me. And one of the terms which I really like is, see the figures, look at the investment. We just looked at the trade, look at the volume of trade. Look at the volume of Israeli exports to Africa. What do we get out of this? That is the figure. But that is wrong, of course, because in order to create trade, in order to create something which is more than just a daily, buzz, you need to invest long time over decades, excuse me, and also in deserts, but also in mountains and swamps. But you need to be very persistent, and that takes me to another point, which again I took from the former presentation. It's very fashionable now okay, to look at foreign relations, and specifically through their commercial value, the value of trade. Of course, it's important. It's important to have trade relationship. It's important from our point of view that the Israeli economy would thrive. Definitely, this is national security. I don't think anybody would debate that. However, development has a key role in foreign affairs, a key role which is unfortunately pushed aside, if not neglected, when you look at everything through this lens of financial gains. Financial gains will appear in the future, but they are not the only goal. They're very important. Don't get me wrong. We, the Israeli diplomats, in all our embassies, we do everything in our power and more in order to push Israeli businesses and Israeli companies and support and do everything, because this is a part of our job. But you cannot, under any circumstances, make this the frame through which you judge or criticize the volume of foreign relations and their budgets. And unfortunately, the trend is very common among certain ministries here, but also abroad. This is not just an Israeli phenomena, and also among some research institutes, again locally, and foreign research institutes. And there are many political trends here, which I am not going to refer to at all, but I'll just stick to the facts from a professional point of view. Countries which invest in development get business, but they also get, and for me that is even more important, they get a good, sound bilateral relationship. They get relationships between governments, they get relationships between people. And the very many ladies in the African continent today in their 60s who are named Golda, you know, are a testament to that, and I've met many of them, and they exist. There are many Goldas, you know, in Africa born in the late 50s, and in Georgia, in Central Africa, born in the 70s. I find it an interesting phenomena. But that's, again, a side issue. So, with all these difficulties, Mashav, who's been active in Africa and all around the world for 66 years now, is doing a lot. We do capacity building. That is our main strength and our main goal. And we work together with, and we also provide humanitarian assistance to any natural or man-made disasters. And we work with people. We put most of our efforts and most of our budgets on people's training, on capacity building. We believe in human capital. We believe in developing the human capital, and through which, going through all of the goals, you know, mentioned in the Sustainable Development Agenda, emphasizing those in which Israel has a clear advantage. So we work with everyone, with other governments, with local NGOs, international NGOs, Israeli NGOs. We work together. We broke the silos years and years ago. We work as we work with other governments and with NGOs. We support Israeli NGOs. Sometimes they have to support us in many ways, but we work together. That is the most important thing. Whenever we can, we lobby for them, we hold hands with them, and we try to assist them also financially, not to mention politically, in the African countries as much as we can. We bring in many participants into our training courses. The numbers you see here are numbers of which don't exist anymore because we don't have the means for them. But this is the potential. This is what we've been doing for decades. Alas, you know, unfortunately, this is all budget dependent, but we still have those trainees. They come in for 3 weeks. They can also come for longer periods, but the standard training is for 3 weeks. We take mid-careers or senior people that could be, we believe in the trainers, they could lead and bring the gospel back home when they come back. These are very professional trainings. They're here, they're exposed to everything has to offer, techniques, technologies, cutting edge industries or agricultural innovations. And it doesn't matter if we speak of education, innovation, water management, or agricultural in desert areas, community resilience, or emergency medicine. They see Israel. They also see Israel behind the news, which is very important. They see how we live here. They see who we are. We get 3 dimensions, and then the relationship deepens, and they remember. And they remember for years and years, and they carry these memories, these fond memories, and everything they studied here for many years. I'm not going to elaborate, but we have a very close network of graduates. One of the things that really touched my heart after October 7th is the gatherings of our graduates in various countries in Africa, also in other continents, where they all prayed for us and sent their condolences. One of the hostages who is still kidnapped, Gadi Moses, already 80 years old, worked a lot in Africa, also in Central Asia and Latin America. But for our conversation, I saw vigils for him in Zambia, in Ghana, in other countries. They knew him, they met him, and this man, as you know, was kidnapped from his home on a Saturday morning, and he's still there. So they think about him and they think of him, and I find it very touching. So just to, we have graduates in many positions, but I want to flip through a few things here and get to the things that we can do if we only could. So these are our priority areas. All of the African countries, no matter what their GDP per capita is, are interested in this. Very clear. There's no doubt. And we work with them on these issues. Should I also mention that it is not just about our instructors going to teach in other countries or that we bring the trainees here. We also are in charge since 2020 of the Internship in Agriculture program, which we have, through government decision, taken over, regulated, and now we monitor and regulate, through which 4,000 students, agricultural students, come to Israel every year. When we took over, the ratio, let's put it this way, the African segment in this program was about 25%. We promised to make it different, and we raised it to 50%. After all, as was mentioned before, Africa is the youngest continent and is a close friend and partner of Israel, and we should definitely nourish those who can come here and do something very significant. As they come here for 11 months, they watch the entire growth cycle, they learn, they're exposed to everything, they work, they earn, they also have a weekly day of studies, and then they go home and they contribute to the national economy and food safety of their own countries. We have some wonderful, wonderful success stories. I don't want to offend any of the honorable ambassadors here, but when I look at them, I think of the wonderful, wonderful success stories that we have in various countries in Africa of graduates that really turn the local agricultural fields upside down all the way. So we keep these networks, and we find them to be significant. And just to go very briefly here, that's an interesting point here that we had. Let's go to the previous one. We post long-term agricultural experts in Africa, in 3 continents. And does it want to go back? No. Interesting, previous, and then another previous. Okay. So we have 6 long-term agricultural experts, agronomists, which are posted in 3 continents. We have 2 of them in Africa. We have one in Kenya, now starting his 4th year. And then we had one in Malawi. He finished his posting in Malawi, and the brackets should not be there because 10 days ago, our agronomist arrived in Senegal. And so we'll have 2 of them, 2 agronomists, one for the English-speaking countries and one for the French. And this is a gift that we're giving to the local government, but also to neighboring countries, to work on national level agricultural policy, but also to teach, to manage projects on our behalf, and to make a real change. And if you would have seen that the scope of the budgets we need to deal with, you'll understand that this is a major investment from our point of view. The days of 300 experts posted in Africa are long gone. So just to give you a little example of the things that we do, we're involved in projects small, medium, and large, and long-term and short-term. When I say small, we support our graduates with micro-grants, and again, they could do this on their own. They could also support, they could also hold hands with local NGOs or Israeli NGOs or business people, whoever they choose, if it's sustainable. We have long-term projects with our partners. The Ethiopia avocado growth, the introduction of the avocado sector into Ethiopia was a very meaningful project in which we were involved for many years. It was originally planned for 10 years. The Americans, USAID, terminated after 10 years. We stayed for an extra 4. This was very significant. It started from everything, preparing the ground, the seeds, we're building nurseries, growing orchards, and then, harvest, post-harvest, and marketing. And for 3 or 4 years now, Ethiopian avocados are being sold in Europe. This is a great thing. And of course, once we graduated, we left it, we didn't leave it alone, but we gave it to the locals. It is there. Our projects needs to be sustainable. The same way we have, this is an extremely significant change, I think. In Togo, we built an ICU unit and in one of the leading hospitals. Should I also say that when we build ICU units, and we have plenty of them, we train everyone, doctors, nurses, paramedics, and we also build the units from A to Z, including all the equipment, and we come back for training and so on. If we speak of these ICU units in Africa, so we have one in Togo, which I'm just showing you, but we have one in Eritrea, we have one in Tanzania, we have one now, and we built many more throughout the years. The newest additions were in late 2022. One in Juba in South Sudan, the only existing ICU unit in the country, and one in N'Djamena in Chad, which we inaugurated in December 22. So whatever we do in this regard, okay, we can see here the trauma center in South Sudan. You could see the kind of things that we do over there. We find it to be significant. In Chad, we also build the same kind of unit, and if I could have, I would have showed you a very interesting video that I have over the inauguration of the unit in Chad. It is significant for various reasons. It's significant because it's a country that renewed its relations with us. It's significant because this was very public. It is significant because in the inauguration ceremony, the Minister of Health said to his people, to the local press, you see, this is how we benefit from relations with Israel. As a diplomat, these were, these words meant everything for me, especially when the entire interview was in Arabic. So we love this. And we are capable of doing many, many other things like that. What are the obstacles? So I already mentioned budgets are a main issue. Then it's not just governmental budgets. We support the private sector. I mentioned that. Only 2 weeks ago, we had a very interesting conference at the Israeli Expert Institute where we introduced the very special PPP model developed by Mashav, which involves establishing relations and therefore pushing Israeli or helping Israeli companies to get significant development / infrastructure projects in developing countries without an international tender, and in return getting development assistance from Mashav. We have many such agreements already signed and in other continents, unfortunately not yet in Africa. But we do this because it is very hard. This is our analysis for Israeli companies. I mean, there are a few exceptions, but it's very hard for Israeli companies to actually get chosen in an international tender. And one of the reasons, this is not about Israeli relations, it's exactly like was mentioned before. It is the support, not support of the foreign ministry, but it's the support for foreign investment risk, be it ASHRA in its various capacities. I'm sure that my colleague, Ambassador Barley, who heads the African department right now, will refer to this, but as I had her job before, I can tell you that the caps of support for investment of whatever project, especially infrastructure or development in Africa, are extremely low. And if you compare them to what other countries are willing to invest in order to push their own companies to projects in Africa in this regard, you will be amazed. I mean, the gap is incomprehensible. So I could have told you a lot of things about scholarships that we give for a master's in public health in the Hebrew University. We give at least 5 of them per year, depending on budget. Sometimes we give more. When we have the opportunity, we also provide scholarships for masters in agriculture. And we try and be innovative. When you have very little to work with, you become very, very creative. And I could humbly say, we feel that we are touching the lives of the people while also serving the diplomatic agenda of the State of Israel. We talk to many youngsters. We realize what is important. We speak to people at the periphery. We offer trainings for rural people affected by, be it desertification or flooding. We work on national scale policies, and we try and do everything, because when every penny or every shekel that comes into our budget is used, we get a real bang for our buck. We take everything out of every cent in our budget, and you will be amazed to see what we do if you compared it to what we work with. But we're there, and we're going to continue doing this. There are also many attempts to reshape development and Mashav, and reshape the way we conduct our foreign affairs. And if I just take it to the angle of development work, many people around various agencies in Israel believe that the trade or economic framework should be used as well here, that we should invest in countries where Israeli companies can actually integrate, and then we get the return, which is great, we're all for it. But what about the least developed countries? What about countries in which no Israeli or international company will ever invest because it's too risky, because there is no return? They don't deserve some aid from us. They don't deserve to be developed. They don't have a finger that they could push on the button in the UN. Now we used to say, people used to vote. Now it's the finger for the button. They're important. And this is what a development agency is all about. The Ministry of Economy is about promoting trade. I am all for it. We all do this. But development is a different sector, and it should not be under the threat of those who are always asking to see bottom lines and where it is. This is a fruit that, or a crop that needs to be gently cultivated from A to Z, and it needs to be nourished, and you get the return for your investment years later. And this is how we should look at it. It also has a moral value, but that's not very modern to speak like this today, so I'll refer from it. Last but not least, the bottom line is that I want you to take home with, that promoting development relations with Africa is a choice. The allocation of budgets is a choice. It is a clear choice. It is a strategic choice. And if we want to take it further and get the returns that we aspire for, that were mentioned here before, we should, literally, I'll be very blunt, put our money where our mouth is, and let's make the right choices. In the meantime, I can assure you that all of the busy bees or ants in the foreign ministry will continue to be doing this work and to carry our gospel and the holy work of working on development relationship with Africa. Thank you so much.